Hello, and welcome to Fool's Tome, the podcast about Magic the Gathering. I'm your host, Ty Thomason. In this podcast, I like to have conversations with people that would normally not become full-fledged blog posts. This week, or this episode, I talked to Lucas Glavin about X-Point. We have a debate about basically the merits of the format. This past weekend, I played an X-Point event up in Hartford, Connecticut, and he was there, and we had some, friendly conversations about it. And after winning the event, I've, warmed to the format a little bit more than perhaps I was before it, but I'm still a little skeptical. So I had Lucas on to kind of talk me through what he likes about the format, what the appeals are, what's the advantages of it, and I kind of voiced my grievances, and we hash it out. We also talk about other formats in the old school space that are similar, kind of their pluses and minuses, and which ones we like the best. If you want my full report about the tournament, that should be up on my blog soon. So take a look at that. Otherwise, enjoy my conversation with Lucas. I'm here with Lucas, and we're going to talk about X-Point. We hung out a little bit this past weekend at an X-Point event. I'm not normally a player of X-Point, but I think Lucas probably has played more games of X-Point than anybody in the world. Is that true?
It's hard to say who's played the absolute most, but I would have to be in the top five, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, while we're hanging out, I've made a lot of disparaging comments about the format. I think I said I only played the tournament because I didn't get into the pre-modern LobsterCon. So, but I've heard some from other people that share my opinions about X-Point, though I don't think any of them have really played it. So I did play the tournament. I had a good time at the tournament, mostly because I won the event. But we just had this conversation. You convince me I'm playing more X-Point going forward.
Well, first of all, congratulations on winning the tournament.
Thank you.
How was your X Point experience? I mean, the tournament itself, I thought was fantastic. Love the guys who run it in Connecticut, the Hydras. How was your experience throughout the day?
I mean, it felt like a normal old school tournament. It's great times. I'm not like the result doesn't matter too much for me at an event like that. It was great that there was beer and hanging out with people. So that's
There for the hangs. So the magic is definitely secondary, but I enjoyed the magic as well.
Mm-hmm. I know you're definitely an enjoyer of Magic like I am. On this, you're always down to play a game even late into the night where other people are focused on other things. So I'll always play a game with you too.
Well, I go in seasonal paths, as a teacher, definitely the summer I'm far more available and not on a wake up at 5:30 kind of schedule. So I will be getting more into the rhythm of that very soon. So
Yeah. All right, so let's start with what do you think is the selling points of X Point? And I guess so some of my listeners probably don't know what it is. So X Point's a version of Old School where a lot of the powerful cards have been assigned point values, and you're only allowed to play 10 points worth of cards, and that's I guess what the X stands for is 10 as a Roman numeral. Or maybe in theory you could use different maximum point values, but anyway, what do you think the appeal is of this type of format?
right. So yeah, part of that X point rule system is limiting the points that you can get to choose from for the cards you want to play in your deck. So the biggest one is Ancestral is 6 points, and then all the way down there's a lot of one level cards like Regrowth and Recall, Mana Drain. So it forces you to make decisions about what you're going to play. But I wrote down a few different ideas about why I think it's a great format to get into. I mean, the first one is just sort of the accessibility of it. As an old school format, I think that price is a major barrier to entry for a lot of people. People who want to play the format and get in on the community. But it's a good kind of contact point for those folks who can build more competitive decks within the realm of possibility. I think that a lot of the decks that showed up well at Hartford towards the end of the tournament were, I mean, not exactly budget when you're running dual lands, but I think that some of the two color and even one color decks did well.
Yeah,
There's
the second
definitely
place
ways to
guy, I
go.
think he had He was black red. He had 4 dual lands. Lots of basics around in the room. I do like seeing basic lands, especially when people pull out their beta basics. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was mono black, mono red. There was a whole bunch of decks that weren't just like leaning into dual lands and everything. So I think that's important that you can get a bigger base of players, or at least sustain a bigger base of players who can show up. And even if it's just for like the Hydra and Neos, the Lobstercon rather, it's been having the second day X Point tournament, just saying like, oh yeah, I got my X Point deck. I can what are the new points, and tinker with it a little bit, and have that just as like a side project. I think it's pretty great.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just I'm gonna kind of respond to some of these points as you make them, but like I get to the accessibility issue. That's something where just in general I know I'm not sensitive to those issues with other people, but my appeal, or the appeal to me of playing old school, is not I didn't come to it like I want to play Magic like I did in 1995. Let me try and get those cards. I kind of came to it with like, hey, I have all of these old cards. What can I do with it? And I think when it's like that, for me, it's like, well, I want to play with the cards I own. And when X Point starts restricting that, that's where I'm like, but I have an Ancestral Recall, and I have all the boxes. I want to play with them all. So that's
Well,
that's I think the counterpoint to the accessibility issue. So
this is why we have all the formats, though.
yes,
like
exactly.
This is why we have Atlantic, and we have 4-strip. You see,
right. And that's something like my point here is I'm not attacking X Point as like a bad thing. I'm just saying compared to other versions of old school that you can play, I find other ones more compelling. Whether it's we can get to some alternatives later on, but like between normal old school, which we'll call like Atlantic, Swedish, and various 4-strips, and like singleton formats, there's like a continuum there. So
no, I guess it's a different question than like the merits of X Point by itself. Doing the comparison thing. But again, to go back to the accessibility point, if people are going to eventually be able to play in some of those formats, you got to get people hooked on old school. Is building up their card pool little by little. And X Point is a good, it's a gateway drug, I guess. If you want to be able to play with your cards, you don't have your collection yet, you're in the process of building it. It's a good kind of like leveling up, and then you can kind of go from there. And I'm sure you'll expand your X Point card pool, but that'll also help you to get into like Atlantic and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I mean by like expanding the format, getting new blood, hopefully into old school.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so other things I wrote down were fairness. So I guess this is sort of what you were saying about playing Magic like it was in '95, because I definitely get more of the vibe of what the games, the kitchen table and high school cafeteria games were like in X Point than I do in like Atlantic or Swedish.
Right.
Because we didn't have those cards then. Like it was very, very unusual for somebody to have like a piece of power or whatever. So because those show up more few and far between in this. There's various archetypes of decks that are out there. A lot of them are kind of like Mishra's Factory, sort of lightning bolt strategies. So like that seems very, very familiar to what actually was being played back in those days, as I experienced it.
Yeah, and I think this is something where maybe I think you're a little bit older than me, so maybe your kitchen table experience at the time was maybe a little more consistent, or people actually had real decks. Because my memory of the time is people were just playing, the 150 cards that they owned in like one giant pile. Yeah, until much, because I was like in middle school, we didn't have big collections, so even compared to that, the X Point decks look way different than what I remember. But as far as the fairness, though, I think that's where it's like, okay, you're not losing to the person that can spend all the money on all the cards, or the extreme power outliers like a Mind Twist or Library of Alexandria or Ancestral Recall. You don't lose to those as often. And I think that's a very big selling point for a lot of people who don't want to lose that way.
Right. Yeah. And along those same lines, I mean, I think about X Point that like I don't think there's any feel bads per se, because like I don't know. In X Point, if you're going to play Mind Twist, you're going to play Ancestral, and you're investing a lot of points in that, then I'm kind of like, well, there goes 4 of your points, or there goes 6 of your points. So it's not just like, oh, well, we're all playing Ancestral, Loa, and Mind Twist, and I happen to get like Mind Twist Lotus this game or whatever. Like I feel like there's less of that, and I don't really begrudge anything that anybody's trying to do in X Point, because like the point system makes you pay for the privilege of doing that.
Yeah, but I do enjoy playing against those cards in normal old school, and I kind of enjoy beating an opponent that has a turn one library. Or I've won games where I've gotten mind twisted on turn two, and it's like that's actually I think kind of the appeal is like okay, my deck can still perform, and I think a lot of people, maybe they give up too quick, or they get frustrated, or they don't have the eyes on the prize, or the all out need to try and find the win the way I do. But
Yeah.
I enjoy that part. So
Yeah,
I
it's a different challenge for sure. I get that. And back to what we said about well, this is why we have all the formats is you can experience that there, but it doesn't just have to be like that. I think X Point breaks free from, even within like EC, Swedish, Atlantic, like those constraints are there. And X Point definitely separates itself from that because that kind of stuff just doesn't happen in X Point games.
right.
Okay, I got a wider card pool. More stuff gets played. You're kind of forced to do that because you can't just jam the same 30 cards into the deck as a starting point and then vary from there. You're basically starting from zero and then building up. So a wider variety of cards are getting played, and to that end, like for people who are going to spice, which obviously there's a whole contingent of people that love doing it, and it brings a lot of flair to the format. They get like a better shot to do their thing. They might not win a lot of games or whatever, but the games play out a little bit longer. They're not going to be as fast and one-sided, and I think that with a little bit more of a watered down power level, the spice decks have a chance to like actually operate their combo or whatever there is they're trying to assemble.
Yeah.
But that just goes. That's a subset of like the wider card pool of things being played out there.
Yeah, I agree that like it definitely helps the spice decks, function when they don't have when they're not under pressure from the mind twists or the five
Yeah.
boxes coming out, powering everything up. But is the wider card pool? I know people have made this argument to me before, and I just don't really see it. There's like maybe 3 or 4 cards that I see played in X Point that I don't see in normal old school. Like you have your desert probably be the biggest one. There's another one I was thinking of. Yoshin Soldier or something like that, like the Tron lands that can put up results. But otherwise, I think most of the cards I see people play, it's like instead of playing all of that power, we're just playing more of those good cards that are normal old school. We're just putting those into our deck or upping the
Yeah,
cost. Um,
it's kind of like I don't know. One way I conceptualize the difference is how good is Wrath of God in regular old school formats versus in X Point.
right,
Like it's actually a pretty important. It was actually a pointed card before this last year. It's that kind of crucial and present in the format, and that to me is like, yeah, you can't even use it in regular old
right.
school, or it's like a fringy kind of sideboard card. So I don't know, that's like an example of where the rubber meets the road as far as opening up playability for different cards and even making them important parts of the format. It's just a different pace of game,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's not. You're right. I mean, it's not the level of like singleton formats or
right.
whatever, going way down the depth chart to get cards, but it's more cards than you would
Mm-hmm.
normally get to see. Yeah,
And it's cards I think that represent what a regular, or at least people that have played Magic
yeah,
in that time period to maybe 10 years ago, what they would think of as an actually good card. Like you
right,
played Black Knight, and that's a card that's like it's a good card. It's not good enough
yeah,
for normal old school. It's
yeah,
certainly not good enough for like modern day Magic, but there's a time in there where that's the right amount of power for a card, and I think
right.
X Point does a good job of highlighting those cards. Sedge Troll,
Yep.
Javelineers, like even Desert. Like these are cards that are like they're strong, but they're not like busted strong. They're strong in the games that you want to see people play.
Right. So if you think about like the median card in a deck in X Point and what a median card looks like for Atlantic, then yeah, it's just showing you what the tiers of power look like between this and that. So different pace, and I think yeah, for people who are looking for more variety, that's a good thing. And then yeah, I mean the ultimate check and balance is the point system, right? So if any strategy or card becomes too dominant and starting to warp the results or skew the format, then they can always calibrate for that by changing the point level. So while the point level is a constraint, it's also a way for them to continue to tinker with the format. And we've seen a lot of change. I think that this year has been more of like a mid-range control sort of year with Wrath coming off the point list. Last year was all about burn decks and burn strategies. In the first year, it was like land tax strategies were really good when that was at one. and they've consistently done things to shake up the format. And I don't think that the people who are on the council for Xpoint admittedly aren't trying to create a perfect list and say, oh, we've got it right and we're just going to leave it like that forever. Like they're trying to respond to changes in the metagame, which means that it's always going to be kind of shifting in vibrance. So I think in that regard the point system is a good feature.
It's definitely a good tool for doing that versus bans, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't just ban card that you don't want to see, or deck is too strong. You can't just ban a card from it because it could have other effects. So I do like the idea of using it as like a knob instead of a switch. But
Right.
one thing I think is like I don't know if I was playing a lot of X Point, or at least I think if they do it once a year they adjust, and to me that seems like probably too slow for what I'd want to see. Now I don't want it to be every month or every quarter, but like maybe twice a year, or have two different flavors or something. Like like hey, the first half of the year we'll play
Mm.
with him at one, and the second half of the year him is at two, or I don't would never want to play with him at one, but just
There was a
I
time. There was a
yeah,
time. Yeah.
I the first time I played X Point, him was at one, and I was like, oh, okay, this format's silly, but
I think that's again a design feature though, and it's certainly, I guess, a better way to put it is it's the philosophy of the people who are running the exploit list. And this is the same reason they don't go to 1.5 point on cards. So like,
right,
1.5 or point 0.5 cards would be correct in terms of like calibration, getting everything right. But what they're valuing is consistency and expanding the player base by making it more understood what the system is. So like not wanting to change it too often, not wanting to introduce like the quarter measures, the half point measures, is a way to try to make it more accessible, understandable, widely accepted, widely adopted by different people. And it works. I mean, like their monthlies continue to draw more and more people every month. They're getting like 80 people a month now.
yeah,
We had a 100-person tournament in Hartford this last weekend. There was a larger tournament up in Canada. There's the side event at LobsterCon. So like,
yeah. The
it's
LobsterCon event gets over 150 people every
yeah,
time. Yeah,
biggest X Point events of the year, and then there's some in Amsterdam as well. So like, what they're doing is working in terms of getting people acclimated to what the point system is, and I think that they value the consistency and predictability of it more than the whole like the knob thing of trying to turn it up and down and get everything exactly right. It's like it can be imperfect for a while. It's like it's okay, and then we'll sort that out as we get to the yearly switch. So
yeah. What is? I guess it's a big question for you. Are you going to play X Point at LobsterCon, or are you going to
I
try to
have to.
defend your team
Of
title?
course, have to defend the crown. Yeah, for
Okay,
sure. Did you play in the X Point last year, or did you do teams?
I did teams. I did teams.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. I love a team
I
tournament. I think
like
that's so much fun.
I can't imagine. I would rather play teams than like the main event of LobsterCon. To be honest, so
Yeah, getting to collaborate and getting to strategize the building of the decks and everything, and just the camaraderie and the atmosphere of it. It was great last year,
yeah,
and really looking forward to it this year. I have nothing against the X Point. I played before the teams. I won the X Point LobsterCon a couple years ago on the secondary site when they did the
oh,
two
during the
different
pre-modern
venues.
day, yeah,
The
I remember
pre-modern, the
playing.
last pre-modern one, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
before
remember playing some.
the great schism, yeah.
Yeah, land tax that day. It was miserable. So.
Yeah, you should have been with us over playing X Point, but
Mhm.
so yeah, no, I love it. Again, biggest X Point event of the year, so it's great to get so many people enthused about it, and I think that helps to contribute to the consistent registration for the monthlies online as well, on the Teleria League. So
Yeah.
it's all working for them. It's all working as a format. It's great.
Mhm. All right. Well, I got a few things that I kind of wanted to touch upon,
Yeah.
like that I don't quite get about X Point. And I think the first 2 points kind of go together, and the gameplay doesn't seem as dynamic as like regular old school. It seems kind of repetitive. Not that regular old school isn't repetitive,
I
but
was gonna say, have you played Old School?
but the regular old school that has those power cards, those like it's like a slot machine, right? Like sometimes something wild happens, and it's also so different than the Magic I played for 30 years. So, but X Point seems it's a lot closer to the normal Magic I play, and that's where it's like, well, why am I playing this? What's
Yeah.
the appeal here? Like, is it different than playing Legacy or Modern? Like, Modern from 10 years ago, not Modern now, which is
Yeah.
a mess. But is it that different? And so why would I choose to do that? And on the same note, it's like because it's similar gameplay to those types of formats, but the cards are old and not as powerful, a lot simpler. The games almost kind of feel easy for somebody like me who I'm well versed at playing creature combat. Like, so I can evaluate the board state pretty quickly. There's not a lot of things going on in people's hands. There's no like duress or counter magic wars usually because those cards aren't in the format. So do you have any? What would you say to those points that I have?
Rebuttals. You big time enough now with the this is too easy.
I'm not saying it's too easy.
Yeah,
Like
you
I
win the
would
one
say
when one
specifically the
exploit
deck I
one
played
time.
this weekend was actually tricky. But like I don't think anybody was gonna win with that deck. But it's tricky. But once you figure it out, you figure it out. So
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of it in that way though, like comparing it to regular Magic games, like limited Magic games or modern or whatever. Like
mhm.
you're right, the power level, the gameplay itself. So yeah, the thing I would go to is just creature combat happens a lot more.
Mhm.
There's a lot more combat situations. It's a limited card pool, so obviously you know like what kind of tricks and instants are going to appear. So if you approach it like a limited format, then the combat plays out the same. But you definitely get to do more attacking and blocking in Exploit than you do in other formats. So that's something.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's kind of weird to think about because if you're coming from the regular Magic universe to Old School, and I think that you're right. It feels like it's a narrowing of the decision tree, and the
Mhm.
games are more linear and the plays are more obvious. But if you're coming from a perspective of somebody who just plays Old School, which a lot of people in Exploit are, and it's
Or to
actually
be
kind
fair,
of
people
explaining
that
it. Yeah,
haven't played Magic in 30 years.
yeah, exactly. Those
That's the
people
other.
too.
Like, I
Yeah,
gotta always remember. So there's a lot of people that just
yeah,
didn't play Magic. That's
yeah.
all.
They find the cards in the closet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, I'm close to building a deck. I'm gonna build a deck. So yeah, I guess it's entirely about your worldview
Mm-hmm.
about that.
And I guess a question for you, since you're usually the crusher here, do you win more in X Point or regular Old School? What would you think?
Uh, Jeez, that's tough.
Because that's kind of a thing where the player base. I don't think some of the strongest Old School players are playing a lot of X Point,
Yeah,
but at the same time, I think you know maybe if they did, it would be even more of them at the top as opposed to
yeah,
regular Old School. So I don't.
yeah. That's a hard question. I don't know. It's hard for me to gauge because I usually do pretty well at both.
Right.
But X Point, yeah. I mean, playing the tournament this weekend, but I guess I feel this way at like LobsterCon too. These like big, wide open, sprawling events. Like definitely there were times where I was in situations with opponents where I could tell they made a mistake or I was able to like capitalize on something.
Yeah.
But I feel
I
like
mean,
that happens at LobsterCon too.
saw me make a couple of mistakes on the day, so
Yeah, I know. And you still won in spite of yourself. So.
didn't
Yeah,
matter. Yeah.
the power of workshop. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
No. But no, I think that within you're right within the exploit community that the broader old school really strong players, not all of them play in the monthlies or whatever, but there's a pretty good contingent of like 10 or 12 guys in exploit who consistently do well, like Felix, Rich Shea's been playing a lot, Joe Bakisha. Like there's guys who are exploit specialists
Okay.
that do very very well consistently. So it's hard. Like those guys are very competitive and keep working on their decks and are
Yeah.
very very good players. So
And one thing
yeah,
that I think probably is a skill that you can leverage more in X Point is deck selection. I don't think
mm,
normal Old School, like everyone knows the deck, which is the best deck. Like
yeah,
everyone knows what deck you have to play to beat that deck. Everyone knows
right.
what deck you want to play if you try to just crush everybody in the field. So, but in this, it's like you actually don't know. You have to make those metagame calls, and so I think it's another way to leverage the skill. That
Yeah.
is an appeal. So,
I guess where I'm at in the format, my situation in it is like, yes, there's a metagame and the metagame shifts, so you got to read that. Then there's also like again those like guys at the top of the format who yeah, if you're gonna win this tournament, you're gonna have to go through them, and that's on the monthly basis, and even at events like Hydra. I was like, if you're gonna win this event, you're probably gonna have to beat Rich Day at some point. Like
mm-hmm.
that's and knowing what Rich Day is probably gonna do and play some kind of control deck. Okay, so I want to allocate and dedicate some thought to how I'm gonna build my deck and my sideboard for that. So there's like some considerations that if you get inside the strategy of the format and really trying to maximize, you gotta work at it some. So it's got its own ecosystem, and I think getting used to that and then seeing how the ecosystem shakes up because of the point changes,
Yeah.
that's like the draw of it. That's the whole design. Yeah.
Hmm. And the other thing that I think is kind of a frustrating thing about X Point to me is that the deck building it just feels a little inelegant when you have these points and you got to keep checking the list and doing math. And it's not that I'm opposed to doing a math problem. In fact, especially when I'm building a deck, like I've done math to figure out what type of my mana base should be a lot.
Yeah.
I've done simulations on opening hands just to figure out how many land to play.
Yeah.
But it just feels something different about that, looking at that point list versus something like as simple as a restricted list or a banned list. And I think that's just it's just I don't know how you can fix that, or there's definitely not a way to make that appealing. So
Yeah.
uh,
I think it's a feature, not a flaw. I mean, I think it's the point of shifting the metagame and adjusting for it is, I think it's what we're there to do for X Point. So it's not, and I think the math problem part of it is 10. It's 10 points.
yeah,
It's not.
it's 10, but it's not like so much 10. It's just like some of the possibilities that I don't think would necessarily be too strong are just kind of taken away. But then maybe I'm just
Do you
trying.
mean that you're saying that there's points on the system that you think are incorrect? Are you talking about like specific cards
I'm
that you
talking
think
about
need to be voted?
combinations of cards. I think
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
it's not so much that like any one card is too many points, but it's like two cards that start to be like, oh well, why can't I play like Regrowth and Demonic Tutor and Soul Ring? And it's like you can, but like that's all you get, and that to me seems like, well, those aren't the cards to spend your points on or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that's the challenge. But even within archetypes, it's like discussions about how to, if you're playing like blue, white, red control, like
mhm.
what are you going to do with points? Are you going to go with ancestral or not ancestral? Are you going to play Loa? That's 3, so you can't really do ancestral and Loa. Or is it better to go ancestral and then limit points there, or go with Loa and then expand and get more mazes and stuff like that? Like these are all the little sub
Yeah,
decisions
and
that
so
are very
I guess maybe I
meaningful.
don't
Yeah.
play enough to see. Like, there's a lot of cards that I see pointed that like I never see in decks, and I think Loa being a prime example here is like, do people actually play that card?
Yeah, they dropped it to
And
3, and it's getting a
and
lot of
like
play. So that's case in point, though. Like when it was 4, it wasn't
right,
getting a lot of play, and then they dropped it to 3, and people were like,
or
pretty
like
good.
Black Lotus. That's a card that's like, are you really spend 3 points
Yeah.
on Black Lotus when you could spend 2 for Soul Ring? That's most of the time is going to be just as good.
Yeah, I mean, Lotus should probably come down given. So they run the stats to see how often cards are played, but also like what the win percentage attached to those cards is. That's the arithmetic that they're using.
Yeah.
And so like cards like Moat, which didn't there weren't a lot of quantities played, but it had a very high win ratio. So for that reason, it was getting a point. Like that's how they were running that. So it's again a reflection of what the specific metagame is in X Point. Um, but maybe that can be wrong, and when they see the cards aren't getting played, they drop them, and then I think that you see a commensurate adjustment in what players are doing. Like I think Loa is an example. You played Balance
Yeah,
in
I
your
mean,
deck as
balance
an
is very
example.
strong for me. So if anybody's playing Exploit for the rest of the year, I recommend playing balance.
Yeah. Well, you also had a lot of artifact mana
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be able to maximize with it. So, but yeah, I mean, like those are all examples of how they do drop points over time. I pushed them to increase ancestral. It was 4 to 5. Now it's at 6, and it's like, and people are still playing it.
Yeah,
So that's interesting too.
yeah. And that kind of brings up, I guess, my next point here is like things that I would like to see in X Point. I don't know if these are just kind of me making up some
I saw
ideas.
your list. Yeah.
I've added a couple more. So the first one I was talking about is what I would call like a progressive points. So I think a lot of the cards on the list aren't problems if you play one copy, but once you play the
Mhm.
second copy, maybe that's when you should start adding points. And then if you play the third copy, it's like, well, that's going to be more. So like I would say the ones that jump out to me are like land tax, maybe not land tax, but like definitely Maze of Ith, right? I don't think the first Maze of Ith should cost you a point.
Mhm.
Maybe the first one's free. Same with Mistress Factory. Maybe the first factory's free. The second one's a point, and the third one's 2 points. We talked about Hymn to Turok, similarly, like doing like a 1, 2, 3, 4 on that. What do you think about that? Is
Yeah.
that crazy? Is that
it's not crazy, but this is something we've been discussing, which is the point of this to like get the calibration correct, or is the point of it just simplicity and consistency? So I feel like the benefits of the simplicity and consistency outweigh the points about
Yeah.
calibration.
But the
We can see
simplicity,
how
like I said, it's you're still doing a math problem. Let's just add a little bit
were
more
you upset?
math.
Were you upset about the math problem a minute
Yeah, that's what I'm
ago?
saying. So like what
You're
like
making
if
the
you
math
want
worse.
simplicity, we just ban all the cards, right? Like
You're making the math problem harder, though.
yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid of doing math. If I'm going to do math, I can do some complicated
Yeah,
math. I'd rather not.
yeah. Philosophically, if the goal here is to get it exactly right, no, I mean, ideas like that are on the right track. Just like ideas like adding the half points
Mhm.
are on the right track. Like I think if we were going to use the current framework, you could change it to like factories worth 1.5. Well, the biggie is lightning bolts, disenchant, and swords should all be a half a point.
Right.
So now you're starting to really limit the cornerstone cards of the format and make tougher decisions about where to expend points. So like those I believe in, but yeah, I mean they want that old school feel, and they want people to be able to add to 10 and know what they're getting in for. So I think that's why
Yeah.
just going with the simpler system is the idea.
And I think it's interesting we start thinking about how the points are calibrated. Is that if you were somehow going to do like a 40-point format, the
Yeah.
point values would look so much different, right? Like
Right.
it's not just multiplying everything by 4. Like yeah, ancestral is probably still going to be over half your points in a 40-point system, but you have granularity between like a, you know, some of these 1-point cards would be 4 points, but some of them might be 2, or some of them might be 6. You know, like you said. So, how you calibrate that,
Yeah.
but then making it
Well,
making it
I
add
think
up to 40 in the end gets a lot harder the more.
yeah. I think you raised this, but the X and X point, when it was established, was intended to be a potential variable.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like a nuclear option that they just haven't felt the need to mess with. And I understand why. I get it.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of that, do you ever do the spinal tap and go to 11? Is that an event that's happened?
It should be. It sounds like a good themed event to
Yeah,
do.
certainly one of the Neos monthlies should just be spinal tap X point
Spinal tap
goes to 11.
Yep, X plus one. Yeah,
Because like
I'm
one more point, it's not gonna break it, but it's gonna be fun. Maybe open some
I
stuff.
agree. Yeah, in honor of Rob Reiner. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple other ideas I had. I like the idea of like being able to play more copies of a card than normally allowed by spending your points. So I would say specifically like dual lands. If you wanted to play a 5th Tundra, could you spend a point to do that? What do you think about that idea?
No, I don't like breaking the norms of Magic to get the 5th Tundra. It's also like, man, really, I'm gonna have to get 500
Right.
now.
Yeah, I mean you have to buy more dual lands, but
No, I think you had another point on your list though about the plague rats, right?
yeah, well, I think in general I'm supporting everyone's. I think every format should support unlimited plague rats because I don't.
Yes.
And I've pushed DFB on this for Atlantic, and he's like, well, no one plays it in the other formats. It's like that's not the point, like people might not play it in this either, but like let them do it if they want to. And here it's like maybe if you don't make it unlimited to begin with, maybe you could spend points for extra rats. 1 point gives you 4 more rats for your deck, or however you want to calibrate it.
I like this idea. I'm also into plague rats. I think plague rats would have a much better chance in a format like X Point.
Oh, I certainly think it would be a good deck in X Point. Not a good deck, but it would certainly be playable.
I wouldn't want it as an all the time, but as a sometimes treat. Yeah, I'd be in for plague rats being free the rats. Yes.
Yeah, free the rats. And I saw a few months ago. I actually don't know how long ago, but they had an emblem format where you could spend points on these emblems. Did you play that? Was that fun?
I didn't play the so basically like I played the Neos monthlies and the X Point monthlies, and that's a good amount of Magic. And whatever I'm doing off to the side to like grind and practice for whatever the next event is, like that's kind of what I'm doing. So I just didn't have the bandwidth to play the emblems, but I know it's Tim Atwood is really the genius behind the emblem event. Yeah, Tim ran the trivia event at
Yeah.
Hartford, and basically was the running the actual matches and pairings and stuff throughout the day. So huge shout out to Tim Atwood. He's been great.
Yeah, he did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, he really did. And so he designed the emblems and put a lot of thought and care into it. And I think it's a great idea as well. Yeah, I mean, like this is so they've done consistently the X Point monthly, and then a few times a year they'll do the special event kind of side event side adventure happening, and this was one of those. So I played against Tim's deck. We did our annual hike in the woods, and
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
yeah, we meet up over the summer and we go hiking a little bit and playing at a picnic table in the state park. And he had his emblem deck, and I had like mono black X point, and he's
What
like,
was his
I'm not.
emblem on that?
He had the elephant one. Was it I think elephant graveyard. Oh no, the elephant's got an extra toughness is what it
Okay.
was. So they were like bulletproof, they're like three
Oh,
fours.
okay.
And
Yeah.
then you had elephant graveyard deck to go with all these elephants.
Okay.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. And I had mono black. We had a great battle, a lot of fun. But yeah, it seems pretty cool. I didn't investigate or play much of it, but I saw his deck and how it worked, and it's kind of like, yeah, I think that the emblems are another really neat pin on it. Kind of feels like the old Vanguard cards
Right.
you used to have. So yeah.
Do you think that it was popular enough that they would? I mean, they'll probably run it again, but do you think they'd ever do like a real life version of that, or is it all just kind of gonna be?
Maybe. I think it was pretty. I mean, I don't know how you define pretty popular.
Yeah.
Like if the regulars, when he ran it last year, the monthly regular was probably drawing like 60 people, and I think he probably got like 20 or 30 people to join.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I could see it as like a spin-off event
Yeah.
at a thing like Hartford.
Or when you ever have your own X Point LobsterCon separate, it'd be the side
Yeah,
of it
yeah,
for
right.
that, right?
Once we have the third LobsterCon,
Yeah.
yeah, then at least time for that, right? But yeah, no, it was a great idea by Tim, and he's very creative and keeps pitching new ones.
Yeah. Did you look at the X Point format that Vaquero ran down in Atlanta?
Yeah, yeah. I competed a little. I mean, Neos did it as their monthly, and Rich
Okay.
Aravallo was going to Atlanta, so I was helping him to test to get ready for it. Yeah, X Point. So formats like that are kind of less interesting to me. Like number one, I'm generally against the formats that exclude the sideboarding because I feel like it's
Yeah.
a big part of deck building and strategy. So like I'm just generally not crazy about that. And the unified formats, or in this case, building a two deck kind of thing, like I don't know, I feel like the variance gets a lot higher in those scenarios. So it's more fun in the way that like a 7 point singleton is fun. And the whole creativity of like, oh, choosing what deck the opponent's going to play. Like I get that too, but it's not for me. I feel like there's structural problems too. Like I thought workshops was way too good in that.
Yeah.
You can't do it. You like
Yeah. You can't
you can't
sideboard.
just load up on cyber. Yeah, it's like that's so there were things about the format that skewed it. Yeah, so I mean I get it, and I'm all for the creativity and trying different things out. And obviously, it was well attended, and people enjoyed playing it, but it's not my personal not my personal preference.
Yeah. And I was thinking about like, oh, could you do team unified X Point? But um, that just kind of seems to defeat the purpose because you could just do team unified normal old school and it would be
Yeah.
basically the same. You
Well,
might have a little bit more power floating around, but I think once you start dividing it up between three people, you're not gonna. The decks are probably gonna look similar. Yeah.
I kind of like the team unified idea a little bit better than double X. I mean, this is still like assuming, okay, so we got three different decks
Mm-hmm.
with sideboards, and you've got the point restrictions and you've got the restrictions. So like, I haven't seen that format done, but it just you mentioned it, it got me thinking like that.
Yeah,
Seems
but
like an
like if you
interesting
sum
idea.
up the total points that you could spend, how
Hmm.
much more than 30 is there? Is it like 50? So, or is it like 70? I don't.
No, I'm thinking each team, each deck still has to
Right,
fall
right. So
within
I'm
the
saying
X
like the X point list has, if you played every card on the X point list to its maximum, would be a total
Right.
of like, at least 30 points, right?
I
I
see.
know it's at
Okay.
least 30. It's probably like 50 or something. I'm not doing math, but
Hmm.
is people playing a third of 50 that much different than them playing 10, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it was
Yeah.
like 80 points, and it's like, okay, they're still only gonna play a small subset of these cards,
Yeah.
then it would be fun. And I guess at those 1 point card levels, it starts to be more impactful in the team unified.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I mean, I think it'd probably break down into kind of what we've seen. Like you'd have a him black deck, a workshop deck, and like a blue whitish kind of deck or something like that.
Or a burn deck, yeah.
Yeah, burn deck, right?
Yeah.
So
So those
I
are
think it would,
the four types of decks you see the most often in
yes,
X Point.
yes. I think that's it. I mean, workshops is somewhat limited, just for financial reasons
Yeah.
and people not having them. myself included. But it's like I think that yeah, the meta has kind of broken down into like the aggro burn decks, the into Torak decks, be they 1 to 4 colors
Mm-hmm.
anywhere in there, and then the blue white X control decks. There's a more traditional kind of like Sarah Angel Fireball version, and then there's the one that Felix has been winning a lot with, which is like a creatureless Elven's Cane,
Okay.
kind of just deck you version.
Yeah. Is there
It's
anything
ultra
you
defensive.
any deck that you kind of archetype that you wish would be represented in X Point that isn't? I've looked at trying to play combo. Like I don't think you can play Time
Yeah,
Vault. Like it's doable, but it's probably not very good. And then like
yeah,
Power Artifact was one I was kind of tinkering
right.
with, but couldn't quite get the ratios right.
Yeah, the combo category is one that has not had a lot of success. People have tried. I would say that like the most successful combo-y kind of deck is probably some version of Stasis.
Okay.
If you're going to call that a combo deck,
Yeah.
because
Well, I think
it's sort of
also
breaking the rules.
there's probably a lot of decks that should be playing Channel Fireball. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Channel is free. It's restricted, so you still only play one, and you don't have to
right.
tutor for it. So it's just Fireball's a strong card.
Yeah, I think Eureka decks have in a way overperforms. Like they haven't been
Okay.
played as often, but people who played them, like Greg Graham, is
Hmm.
very good with that deck. They've done fairly well with it. So that's another one of the combo-y
Yeah.
kind of decks. But I was gonna say, you mentioned Channel Fireball, like green in general is kind of underplayed slash
Okay.
underperforming. Like I think it's just because Wrath especially has come back now. And beyond that, like the burn decks, were just faster than the green
Right.
decks.
If everyone's playing
Um,
Deserts and Javelineers, you don't really want to play
yeah,
Llanowar
yeah,
Elves. People still play
right.
the Abyss or Moat. Those cards and
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's tough on the green. I think it's tough on the green mages. So I would like to see. I don't know what you can really do to make green better. That's
I mean,
not just adding points to the other colors, but
you could unrestrict channel. That would be a.
you can restrict channels, sure.
It's still hard to cast. You can't just splash that card, but
Yeah, no, no, you have to commit. So yes, that would be something to help green.
I don't know if that's
But
what you want to
I
do,
don't
but
know. Green was better at the beginning
hmm.
in land tax shells. Like that was like the
Oh,
deck of
okay,
first year, like the Dark
yeah.
Heart of the Wood deck. Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of like Sylvan Libraries or Bizarre Baghdad's. I know Bizarre. Most people probably don't have that card. So is there like reanimation strategies or like the
They
Sylvan
pop up
Bizarre aggro
very,
decks?
yeah, the Bazaar pops up so infrequently, that it's just not something that I worry about. Like I
Hmm.
don't, no respect to it. Don't play Tormod. You can play Tormods to mess with the Feldenskane deck.
Okay.
Like, that's a legitimate reason, but it's like not even on the radar screen. And maybe again, it is a financial thing, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I haven't seen a lot of Bazaar, and I haven't seen it do well. It's not even like
Yeah.
there's a couple people who have it and they break through when they play it. Like I just haven't seen it do particularly well. So it's not pointed. People could certainly use it, but yeah, I think that's another one that's not very well represented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess maybe we'll just end it. Like I had a list here of formats that like I was kind of comparing X Point to in my
Mm-hmm.
when I think about X Point, and I think the closest thing to X Point. I don't know if you played the 1.5 format that the Beasts had. Probably 2020 peak COVID. They were running those events online,
Yeah.
and basically they would just take an aggressive approach to banning cards,
Mm.
to the point where I think it's some like Serendib, Efreet, and Lightning Bolt ended up on the ban list at some point. What do you
Right.
think about a format like that, where you just start banning a lot more cards?
Yeah, I never played it, and I know that was an effort to get people to go deeper into the pool
Hmm.
of cards that weren't played. So I get where they're coming from spiritually. I just think that the different formats once again, and the idea here for Exploit is try to get I think it's the more accurate kind of 1995 feel of any of the formats that are out there, like what people actually did. Sure, the decks were a lot worse back then, and we didn't
Yeah.
have enough mana sources and that kind of stuff. But this seemed to me to be closer spiritually to what those decks looked like. But I mean, I get what the 1.5 was about. I think you get the same vibe in 7 Point Singleton.
Hmm.
Getting
Yeah, there's
people
a
to play
lot
a
of
lot of
Singleton
different.
formats,
Yeah,
and those don't quite feel the same to me because Singleton, by kind of the definition, you're really stretching the card pool. You're saying, hey, I want to see you play, um, Tanos's Coffin, or I want to see you play
yeah,
the whatever obscure card that is
yeah.
playable, just not in the top 200 cards playable. Yeah.
Right. Phantom Monster. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Rock
yeah,
of
yeah,
Courage is yeah.
yeah. Granite Gargoyle. Yeah, those guys.
He's pretty good. He's a bubble guy. He's all right.
It,
He's all right.
yeah. Um, but speaking of playing like it's 1995, I think the
Yeah.
format that does that most for me is the original six format, which I believe you
Oh, okay.
created that format. Is that
Jared had the idea as like a
okay?
Neos monthly, and then I kind of ran with it and have become the de facto commissioner of it.
Yeah,
So yeah, this is one for anyone who's always trying to publicize. It's the just no core set. Other well, Ice Age is the core set, so there's no alpha, beta, unlimited, revised, none of that stuff. So you still have a lot of those cards because they tried to roll out Ice Age as a fixed version of what the core set was with pain lands instead of dual lands.
right. Counterspell,
And
Source of Plaster, Disenchant. Those are
yeah,
there,
they're
but
still there. Yeah, yeah. So you get the expansion sets basically from Arabian up through Ice Age. Yeah,
yeah, and I guess that's the next month's Neo. So if anybody listens to this and wants to check that one out, I recommend it a lot. There's a lot of cool things to do. I think they finally got the ban list right by just banning all the
yeah.
cards that needed to be banned.
Well, Necro is still available,
Is
and
it restricted though? Right?
Necro is
I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember my own
I know
ban
they like
list.
finally banned like
Yeah,
land tax and library.
yeah, land tax is restricted.
Okay.
I'll pull up the latest, but yeah, it was. I think the most recent thing that changed was that Maze of Ith got restricted.
Oh yeah.
It was just created. Yeah, Necro's restricted. Thanks
Okay.
for the reminder. Um, Consultation in Necro, Mana Drain, Strip Mine, Workshop, Kaharazad, and Land Tax. And the
Okay.
only banned card is Loa,
Hmm.
aside from anti stuff, obviously.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, people are necroing and poxing. That's like a whole archetype that's pretty
Yeah.
popular, though. Didn't do too well last time around because everybody is now running tons of Psychic Purge,
Yeah.
which I
Second
feel is
Purge is
fitting.
so good
Yeah,
against Pox. Yeah.
yeah. I feel it's a very fitting
Hmm.
situation in '06 for that. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, I like the format. It definitely takes me back.
Yeah.
Um, and getting to play the Ice Age cards is neat. Like, realistically, there's not a ton of Ice Age cards that are that impactful. Like you've got I mean, Incinerate replaces Bolt, so that's not
Hmm.
even like
Yeah.
an addition. But like you've got Stormbind, you've got Necro, Insults, which are restricted cards. Um, and I don't know, uniquely Ice Age cards that make
Hmm.
a huge appearance are kind of
Brainstorm,
limited.
but like it's not that good.
Yeah, the blue cantrips are,
Yeah.
are interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
Portent, yeah, cards like that.
Um, yeah. That's true.
But
Like.
yeah, Ice Age is cool, and
Yeah.
it's good to yeah if you're not into like mind twisting somebody or whatever, trying to ancestral regrowth, then you're getting that slower pace of game and more feels of what it was like back in those days. Ice Age was my first set, so I'm
Okay.
I'm nostalgic for it at that level as well.
Yeah. It is my first set too. As bad as it is, it has a lot of nostalgia. So.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think I wanted to marry the idea you had also about Scrying's exploit
Well,
with
first let's talk about scryings because
sure. Yeah.
as big of a proponent of X-Point as you are, I
Mm.
am probably an even bigger proponent of scryings. I probably have played the most scryings, or I've certainly thought about scryings decks more than anybody else in the world. So, what's your experience with scryings? Do you like scryings? Have you played a lot?
I played a medium amount. I haven't gone to any in-person Scrying's
Mhm.
events. I know Stormcrow Cup in Philly is the typical one.
Yeah, they've had that twice, and then the last two mobster cons were scryings
They've
in New
team
Jersey,
unified.
but
Yeah.
I don't think the
Yeah.
future one's going to be that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. So I've played the online Neos, and I've played a little bit with people getting ready for
Mhm.
things like Stormcrow. I like Scryings. I think I know you like it because the Twiddle Vault is just regenerative and that.
Yeah, but I literally only played that deck in Scryings one time. So people keep saying that to me. And it's like I've played a new deck in Scryings like every event. So uh, it's just so
maybe
much fun.
maybe I just connect you to the time
Yeah,
vault that I told you
he
way back
sold me.
when.
Yeah,
Yeah. Scryings is cool. It's another spin on old school that's been carefully curated, and I respect Scryings. I think the archetypes that work in old school continue to work in Scryings. They've upped the power level on some, like they've made some decent goblins editions and things for like White Weenie Abyss Knights, stuff like that. So I like what they've done.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun format, change of pace. I look forward to playing it when it
Yeah.
comes around.
Yeah, I just wish it was at the level where, you go to a meetup and people say what they're bringing. It's like, oh, I'll bring Atlantic, or I'll bring some Force Strip, or a lot of times people have X Point because it's like
Yeah.
just a deck they have together. I wish people had like a Scrying's deck that they kept together or something and didn't just kind of take it apart as soon as the event was over and played it
Yeah,
more.
I think yeah, it's hard to get traction. It really is, and trying to find a common denominator of things to play.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Just in terms of where it falls in the pecking order, is there an event coming up? Okay, well, people might have decks for it, but
Hmm.
I don't know. People can only have so many decks, I guess.
Yeah. But yes, Scrying's X Point. I think there's some, what cards are there any cards on the current X Point list that you think would change if Scrying's was allowed? And are there any cards
Well,
in Scrying's that you think should be pointed? Which I don't think there
well,
are, but
I'm happy to discuss that. I haven't thought about that question as much, but maybe I was going to tie to an idea that Rich Arvalo had come up with, which was Ice Point, which is just adding Ice Age to X Point. So
oh,
similar
okay,
idea, but we'll add the Ice Age cards as well.
okay. Ooh, yeah. Let's talk about that first because that's actually I think easier to do because there's like literally two cards that you have to I think concern yourself with.
There's two from Ice Age, and then there's one that comes from X Point. So obviously, I think Necro and Consult are the two cards.
Mhm.
And I think so. My feeling on those is if you were going to add Ice Age, that for starters, I would just give those 1 point apiece, and I can explain my reasoning. And then Consult, I guess, restricts, but I don't even know if I would do it. Part of
Okay.
it is my desire to just see how things play out, like
Yeah,
what this leads to.
that's
So
interesting. I would have probably put Necro at like a 2 point, but I could see
yeah, it's
I
around
could see
that
your
because
argument. That'd be a fun way to start, and especially if it's like just one time. Yeah.
if
The
you're gonna
problem
do
is, I
Necro,
think I have a similar issue with any format that lets you play Ice Age. You're just gonna get an over representation of Necro decks just because people want to play.
want to play their Necro.
And same with just like X Point, everyone wants to play him and Hippie. Just the normal old school people want to play those cards. And
Right,
yeah, I
right.
I see the appeal. I enjoy casting both those cards. I just don't want to do it all the time the way
I
some
mean,
people
yeah,
do.
in this Ice Point list, Necro could be too. The thing is, this is where it's going to start to come up against. Okay, you want to play Necro, so you want to play him.
Hmm.
So then, how are you going to calibrate? I guess you can do four hymns. No, you can't. You can't do four hymns and four Necros. You'd have to
Yeah.
do like
You probably want
what,
to do like 3 hymns, 3 Necro, or three
a
four.
jet,
Yeah, yeah,
down the jet or something. Okay, so those are choices that you have to make within those constraints. Again, maybe Necro's too good, but time will tell. It's not like you get contagion to like
right.
really blow people out with.
Hmm.
And then you're not playing consultation. So like that was my other point about restricting consultation might not be necessary. I'm not like I'm kind of dim on consultation anyway. I just maybe I just had too many bad experiences, but
I I I hear you, but I remember listening. I forget who it was on the All Things Considered podcast was talking about how much anti dual lands they won back in 1994 or 1995 with playing Channel Fireball with 4 consults.
okay,
So
yeah,
you just
it could
always
be.
consult for channel, and you know you're winning like more than you're losing. The
Yeah,
math
but
works out in your favor. That the if you
yeah,
might lose, but when you don't, you're gonna win. And so I think
no, I want to
that's
see
an
it.
argument for maybe restricting it. But
I want to see it.
yeah,
Show me
I
that.
would love to do that. I would love to
Yeah.
give that a try. That would be exactly where I would start. So
Well, the other card that would have to get pointed is Time Bomb.
oh
And
yeah, yeah, because
I would
the
only do, yeah, because of the talisman thing.
lapis lazuli
Yeah,
talisman. Yeah.
you get infused as well, which is like
Mhm.
a cantrip twiddle. So I think that the time bomb decks would be absurd. All that said, I would say just do 1 point for starters because
Yeah.
like we said earlier that the combo decks have not really had a chance in
Right.
X Point. So let the time vault deck have
Yeah,
its
and
day.
recall is already a point, so you're
Recall's a
already kind of
point.
pressuring it there. Yeah.
Yep, you are. So, but again, let it have its day and have its day in the sun. And then if it's really too good, then great, we'll calibrate and change points. So
Mhm.
this is the format I've given a little bit of thought to.
Okay.
And those are the only changes. Those are the only things that I think I would do for starters. Take a mild approach,
Yeah.
invite in more of the Ice Age, see where it goes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yep, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to have the pain lands alongside the dual lands too.
Oh, I would
That'd be
love to
neat.
play a format where that's the case. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sign me
So
up.
okay.
I was already trying to spin points to play more dual lands, so
Yeah, yeah. Here you go. Yeah,
here I go. I was just getting them for free.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about scrying is like what would change. I mean, you would probably want to point like Time Vault, just
Right.
because I think it's that strong. But any cards from scryings that would need pointed, I don't think so.
I mean, I think the first question is there some sort of combo that becomes
Yeah,
too good? People are gonna try to lich, right?
yeah.
Zern Orb, that card's
Zernorb
so
is a
good.
card that it's kind of like Maze of Ith, where it's like when it's not necessarily the best card, but like sometimes you're just like, hey man, let's try to end the game. Stop
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah. You were playing an '06 game there with my wet weenie deck against Rich,
Yeah,
and I remember he played Zern Orb. He just like picked up all the cards. Like,
yeah.
fuck this. Yeah,
Well, I couldn't win at that point, but yeah, it was.
yeah. No, I get it. So that's probably one. I don't know. I think that you take a mild approach
Mhm.
going in with the pointing and then see what develops and then go from there. Those are the only ones that jump out, but I have to look at the list
Yeah,
some more and really give it some thought. But I agree with you about probably gonna do something about Time Vault. Definitely would want to do something about
yeah.
Zern
I
Orb.
think maybe like Bizarre Baghdad might end up on the list.
Yeah.
As like a
Oh yeah,
one
it gets all
card.
the reanimator.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's another one. Yep.
Mhm.
Totally. I agree with that. But that's another good experiment, another good
Yeah.
thought experiment I'm into. Yeah. And then I know you mentioned A to A, which you put next to it, vintage 95, 96, 97. Yeah, I mean, my thought about A to A is like, it kind of is just vintage from those days. I mean, obviously the list, the banned and restricted from those days is different from what we do in A to A, but I think A
Yeah,
to A
they
is,
have.
well,
I
should
know
be.
they have different. I think it's Min Indian has a list of like what those years should look like. Going through all the
Mhm.
way through every year, what the ban list should be for vintage. And yeah, A2A is just one subset of that.
Right.
I I don't have a lot of interest in those formats, to be honest, because like each set you add, you're adding, you're definitely taking away playability from previous cards, and you're not adding as many to make up for that. Uh,
Yeah.
so
I mean, I'm cool with it though. I mean, you say that one of the draws of old school is the degeneracy
mhm.
of the stuff you can do, and you get even more in A to A for that reason. And
Yeah,
there's
but
some
I
other
also
cool
think the
combos
88
in it.
degeneracy, like it's there, but there's also a lot of like degenerate hate. Like turn one
Yeah.
gorilla shaman, and you're like, oh well,
Well,
I stop
that's
playing Magic
yeah.
anymore. So
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
whole that's the sun that the universe revolves around. Whenever Gorilla Shaman is available in old school formats, it completely it changes the game. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of good approaches, and there's combo decks. People play with the Glacial Chasm and
yeah,
Storm
yeah. I will
Cauldron and
say for
stuff.
all of these other formats, I mean, maybe not original six, but the Ice Point, Scryings, 8A, Vintage, those all have a lot more combo representation that you don't see in
Mhm.
X Point, and I
Right.
think that's you see a lot less creature combat. I guess that's the trade off, but
Yep. Yep. I think that's true. So I enjoyed playing A to A at the LobsterCon, and I saw a good variety of decks. I saw some him decks, I saw burn decks, Storm Cauldron decks. I don't think I played the same deck twice in the teams event. I think I played
mhm.
different things each round. And even within like the Gorilla Shaman decks, some were trying to do ATOG, some were just more
Yeah,
like kind of like red,
Zero
white,
Div,
blue.
yeah.
Yeah, and some were playing like green and trying to like zoo and
Mhm.
like that. So there's some different approaches in there. It was neat. It was good to see.
Yeah. So if you had to like rank your favorite old school variety formats, what's your number one? If we count Swedish, Atlantic, and
Oh
Force Strip kind
man,
of as the same
all
thing.
that in there too. Well, that's all one thing.
Yeah, let's count it as the same thing. Like you have
Okay.
normal, full powered old school only through. Yeah, I guess Swedish versus Fall with the Fallen Empires thing. You could separate it out if you want to. But
Yeah. Yeah,
how?
I guess I would take Atlantic first, just because that's kind of I'm biased because that's my region and what I got into old school playing. Like actually the old school of recent years.
Yeah.
So like that one makes a lot of sense to me. It's clean with 93, 94. You get all the 94 cards.
Hmm.
I like him. I know this is an issue that we talked about accessibility at the start of the
Yeah.
discussion, and some people care about that, some people don't. But him is like a equalizer for people who
Right.
are trying to get in at a budget level. So I think that's cool. I like Atlantic. After that, man, It's somewhere between Swedish and four strip. Again, I like the
Hmm.
total different vibe of the four strip format being there as a check and balance to Atlantic. That Atlantic and Swedish, I think the deck is still just like way too
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So having four strips totally changed the arithmetic. So I think it's hard to do these rankings
Yeah.
because
But you
like
would
the
say
whole
you would
point is
prefer both of
having.
those to playing X Point? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
I enjoy X Point, but it's like
It's not. It's not your main
yeah,
thing. Got it.
it's a different thing. I mean, I enjoy playing it consistently, and it gives a totally different feel once again. So I got X Point on there, and then below that, I'm partial to my '06. I like A to A, which kind of feels like just regular four strip, but with
Hmm.
some new wrinkles. Rings, we discuss
Yeah.
cool format. Haven't played a bunch of.
Are you a singleton format enjoyer? Or
Oh
does it seem
yes,
like
I have a singleton, or I have singleton decks. I have like a long-term project where I'm going to try to at some point dabble in each of the two color combos.
okay?
Like have a tropical island deck, have a bayou deck,
Yeah.
like and just try, even if each of those decks individually isn't the best, try to maximize what you can build for those two colors. So I enjoy that's like I say that's like a cribbage format, like
Okay.
very laid back, very
Yeah.
just like hey, we
You
have
don't
fun.
know what your record is. You don't keep track of your wins and losses in
Yeah, and
singleton.
I mean, I've played mostly control decks so far.
Okay.
Just this kind of more my style, but I've played like five color control decks and blue-eyed control decks and artifacts like blue-eyed black kind of control decks. But I want to get more into the creatures. So I don't have the most flight time playing 7 point singleton, but I've played a decent amount of matches and I've seen what's out there, and I think it's great. I think it's cool. I think it's neat to see all the cards. I played the Sisterton format
Yeah.
a decent amount as well. The 100 card
The
singleton.
100 card phones I think are way better than the 60 card. Whether it's
Yeah,
sisters or brothers or what other ones they have.
I agree. I think for what I'm looking for out of it, that's more, the vibe I'm trying to catch is what's in the 100 card.
Yeah. Though
As far as
I
like,
keep saying it should be 80 cards because I don't want to shuffle a 100 card deck. Yeah.
it's not you make a good point there. And there'd be a little bit more consistency, but
Yeah.
as far as like the 7 point, I know that those guys, because like the people who play in those are very consistent. They play every monthly. There's tournaments overseas. There's like a great world championship that happens in Madrid
Mm.
in July every year that people say is a fantastic event to go to. So I get it. They're trying to make it so that it's somewhat more masterable and less variable, but it is impressive to see that some people do consistently well at 7 point, even though it's such a variable format with the singleton. But it just shows the level of dedication and effectiveness that they have on really, really hyper fine tuning these decks. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yep,
All
and they're
right.
good players. Yeah, and they get
Yeah.
into they get into games and combat states and know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
it's impressive. Yeah.
Hmm. All right. Well, I think that's all I wanted to cover.
Great.
Is there anything? I mean, I guess I could rank my formats. I definitely prefer
Yeah, yeah. What do you got?
I definitely prefer four strip to other varieties of old school. I just think this is where I think four strip is the hardest version. I think it's a little punishing for people that don't realize how hard it is. Like
Mhm.
when to play your land, when to strip mine, and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
it certainly is what I like about playing Magic. Um, then after that, I would probably have to put Atlantic above Swedish. Just the Fallen Empires cards are cool, and I don't mind workshops. As long as workshops getting crushed by the deck, it's
Yeah.
let's let it do its thing. And then I think Scryings would have to be my second favorite. It's just
Okay.
I might rather play Scryings than Swedish. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well, I hope you've gotten somewhat of a better impression of X Point after Hartford than you had going in. I feel like there was a little bit of an improvement in your estimation of what the format was.
yeah, I mean it was. I certainly didn't play against all the him decks like I thought I would.
Yeah.
The games were interesting to a point. And I think if there was more bigger events, like I would much prefer to play X Point in a format like we did there than like an online monthly. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of we're a little different in that. I'd rather play a big in person event than these monthly events with the same people all the time. But maybe I'll sign up for one in the future, or if Neosis does one, because I'll do that. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, part of it is, I mean, I love going to in-person events. It's just, traveling and schedule
Yeah.
is tricky. Monthlies are convenient. They do something else really nice on those monthlies. Is they have everybody sign up for a preferred time zone.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's pretty good, and you can choose, like, do you want to be European, American, or a mix? If,
Hmm.
you got like a flexible schedule and stuff like that. So I think that that's helped with scheduling of matches, and it does lead to like seeing a lot of the same people
Hmm.
consistently. But you can also, if you've got a month where you're like, okay, I know my schedule's gonna be a little different, mix it up, move to a different pod, and then you get completely different people.
Yeah.
And I'd also say that, between playing Neos and X-Point, I've definitely met more people in the X-Point League who are like, oh, this is my first month
Oh
I'm playing,
yeah.
like they're, brand new. It's like, and it's great to see that, and they keep coming back. So they've done a really, really good job accommodating, I think, and working out how to enable the scheduling and stuff. So it's been a really well run online league, I would say.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe I'll check it out. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
it's
right.
I can
Maybe,
skip
yeah,
doing matches. It's just so
maybe.
especially
Well, maybe you'll get workshops pushed up to two next
yeah,
year.
maybe it will be. I that deck was very good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think
awesome.
I my sideboard was way bad, but I'll write all that stuff up in my blog post about the event, so
Definitely.
you
Yeah.
can read that, and I'll have some thoughts there about the
All right.
specifics of that event. So,
Very
all right,
good.
well, thanks for talking to me, Lucas, and
Thanks for having me on.
I'll see you, I guess, some point.
Probably,
Definitely at
yeah, maybe
LobsterCon, but
in,
maybe over the summer. I'm sure.
yeah, maybe in June at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks to Lucas for coming on the podcast. There may have been a little echo there. That's mostly my fault. I don't record a podcast frequently enough to have these settings memorized, and every time I seem to turn it on, they update the program and change everything. So I think this was me not quite getting it right, but I think it was mostly listenable. I'll try and do better next time. And that's it. Until then, thanks for listening.
As it rises